Chris D.T. Gordon is a husband and father of three, online middle school special education teacher, professional speaker, podcast host, co author, marathon runner, martial artist, and pop culture enthusiast, AKA geek. He is also a survivor of a life threatening disease. He uses his story and message to inspire and motivate others to overcome their challenges with gratitude, positivity, and resilience. He challenges everyone to pass on perfection and go for greatness. He's been featured in the KIMT, KEYC News, Runner's World, and two of Rochester's news stations. Chris, I'm so grateful for you to be here today. Thank you.
Sarah, I'm grateful for you, and I'm also grateful for Jen Gottlieb, who connected us with
Yes.
her pre-launch group and her book be seen. But I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Same here. You've been through so much. And what I really loved about you, other than being another Midwesterner,
Yeah.
I just love your attitude of positivity and how much you had to discover like what you needed in the moment when that happened to you. Can you share a bit about your journey?
Definitely. Well, it all starts on March 18th, 2015. At the time, my wife, Becky, and I were both teachers. Spoiler alert, we still are. She taught at the public high school here in Minnesota, in New Ulm, Minnesota, and I taught online, where I taught middle school special education. I still do. I was helping her get our three young kids into the van because she would take them to daycare and kindergarten before she would go up to the high school. Well, I picked up our younger son, Seth, and was flying him back and forth to our detached garage. I unfortunately went too far to the right and scratched the back of my right hand on my garage wall. I looked at it, and to quote one of my favorite movies of all time, I said, "'Tis but a scratch." If you're of a certain age, you might pick up immediately what that movie is. Well, it wasn't bleeding, like I said, so I decided just to put them into the car seat, kiss them all goodbye. And as they went on their way, I went on my way back into the house to wash my hand, bandage it up, and start my day of online teaching. 3 days later, I woke up to finding a lacrosse ball bump on my right elbow.
Oh.
I went to the doctor at the urgent care clinic, and he said that it could have been bursitis, which is an inflammation of the bursa sac in our joints, and I should keep an eye on it. So I did. I kept an eye on it as that bump grew and grew and grew until my right arm was 3 times the size of my left.
Hmm.
I really didn't think that was normal. So eventually, after finding a babysitter for the kids, Becky drove me to the emergency room. They quickly admitted me. And not only did I have a right arm, I had to quickly found a right arm that was 3 times the size of my left, mind you. I looked like the Incredible Hulk in mid-transformation. I had also found out that I had gone septic.
Oh.
And for those who don't know, sepsis is a reaction that the body has to a foreign agent where it will on occasion, send a chemical into the bloodstream to fight off said agent. So essentially, I had poison coursing through my veins and a ginormous right appendage. Not the craziest Saturday night I ever experienced. Easily top 5. They keep me overnight for observation. And in the morning, that attending doctor said something, Sarah, I will never forget. She said, "Mr. Gordon, this is beyond us. We can do nothing more for you here. Where do you want to go?" I quickly said Mayo, as in the Mayo Clinic,
Mhm.
not only because it's world renowned, but Becky's parents, Bill and Dee, lived in Rochester. Bill, at the time, was actually a hospital chaplain, and they lived a few miles away from the hospital. So I knew that Becky, the kids, and Max the dog would have a place to stay for I was sure, 2 or 3 days this would take to resolve itself. They quickly fly me to Rochester, but not before I call Becky to tell her the plan.
Right.
So I land in Rochester. I they put me to an ambulance, take me to St. Mary's Hospital, which is the flagship hospital in the Mayo Clinic system in Rochester. Weirdly enough, as they're wheeling me in, Becky and her dad, Bill, come walking in at about the same time. Kind of shows you kind of a superwoman I married. She could beat a plane all the way to Rochester.
Wow.
So once I was in the hospital, they quickly diagnosed me with necrotizing fasciitis, also known, as you said, as flesh-eating bacteria. Once they knew what was going on, they quickly picked me for my first surgery. And after that, I don't remember anything for 5 days because I was in a medical coma.
That's
After I wake up,
insane.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
As I'm covered in grab bandages. I'm basically confined to this bed. And I see my brother, Jeff, who lives in Michigan. I'm thinking, why is he here? What's going on? I get instant crabby. He almost leaves to go back to Michigan, but thankfully he doesn't. Instead, he calls Becky and Bill. They come to the hospital to visit with me, check on me, and to give me the 5-second recap of the week. And then they leave. And I am left with my new body and all kinds of questions. I'm looking at myself lying in this hospital bed, wondering, what am I going to do for the rest of my life when I fully recover, if I fully recover? At the time, I had a gargantuan cast going from the base of my neck all the way to my hand, actually covering the entire, except for my 4 fingers. The pinky actually was covered too. I had thoughts about that. I thought maybe they had amputated it and installed like a robo pinky or something. I could go back to the physical classroom and teach and use it as a laser pointer. My left leg was all bandaged up. I really couldn't see why that was. So I had no idea what I was physically capable of. How was I going to deal with this mentally? What was my mental state going to be like after this trauma? What were my relationships going to be like with Becky, my other family members and friends, my colleagues, even strangers? How were we going to deal with this financially? All of these questions swirled in my head, and I had no answers. I call this personal bacteria because while all the physical bacteria I had sent me to the hospital was cleared out, that personal bacteria was starting to ruminate in my mind and send me into a negative spiral.
Now, question for you. Did you immediately say, hey, first of all, were you in the room by yourself when all of this was going on and you just woke up and you were discovering all these things? Or did you see loved ones there or doctors? What was the state that you were in when you first discovered, I have all this going on?
That's a really good question, Sarah, because that leads to one of my, I would say, most regrettable moments of my life, but it's not one of my proudest. I woke up and I thought I was at the bottom of a water slide because I felt all this liquid on me. It turns out when I woke up, I was expelling the fluid they would use for CT scans.
Yeah.
And there was a poor nurse there who wasn't even supposed to be there that night. I guess she was called last minute, to quote the movie Clerks. She wasn't even supposed to be there that day. And I was waking up groggy, irritable, and I was yelling. I don't usually yell at people. And I was not in my best state, let's put it that way. And that's when Jeff came in looking at me and almost deciding, I'm going to head back to Michigan. So no, I woke up essentially by myself, but then the nurse came and ran away. And then Jeff came in and called Becky and Bill.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a crazy discovery too. You don't remember anything. You were 5 days in a coma, and then you're like, "Okay, now there's bills, there's relationships, there's all these things. Look at my body. What can it do?" So what was that moment when you were like, "I'm gonna just take one thing at a time and start to move my life forward?"
Well, one of the first days of my post coma life, Becky came to the hospital and she started telling me about all the various things people were doing to help us. For example, the neighbors north and south of us were shoveling our walkway and snowblowing our driveway. We had the local law enforcement come and check on the house because when you live in a small town, phrase flesh-eating bacteria spreads nearly as quickly as the actual bacteria does. Everyone knew what was going on. And not only that, but with Becky being a teacher in the high school, it was hard to keep things under wraps. Not that we were trying to, but just things, everyone knew what was going on.
Totally.
We had some of our friends in Rochester, some of my colleagues from my online school deliver toys and clothes and food to Bill and Dee's house. As it turns out, Becky and the kids and Max the dog were not there for 2 or 3 days. They were there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And in fact, Bill at one time had to drive back to New Ulm to pick up more clothes and bring them back because those first 2 weeks were so tenuous in terms of what my condition was going to be. As I said, my brother, Jeff, flew in from Michigan. As soon as he heard about my condition, as soon as Becky told him what was going on with me, he took the first flight out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, flew to the Twin Cities and took a shuttle down to Rochester. And during his travels, he bought me an iPad to help me pass the time, keep myself occupied. I missed all my various surgeries.
Mm.
One of Becky's former high school classmates started a GoFundMe account, which actually raised enough money to overcome the lost wages I had incurred from my absence from school. I ended up missing the entire last quarter of school. But thanks to that GoFundMe account, we didn't really feel it that much.
Incredible.
When Becky told me what everyone was doing in our various social circles, I could feel that physical bacteria wash away. And I was left with what I now call the attitude of gratitude, or TAG for short.
I love that. So what does the T stand for in TAC?
Stands for but also stands for think, as in think of all the good things in your life.
Mm.
And so I'm going to ask you, Sarah, if I were to ask you to think of all the good things in your life, what would you say?
Well, I would think of all the wonderful people that I have surrounding me, all of the, you know, I'm grateful to have a roof over my head, having running water, all of that. And then I would, just be thankful for also these interviews that I'm doing and getting other people to share their stories about how to overcome some stressful situations. So it's inspiring to me, to my listeners, and it's creating that ripple effect. And yeah, and my relationships are really important to me.
And that's fantastic. And that's what I would think. That's what I thought first as well. As I thought of the people in my life, my job, my home, and those were all great things. But I started to go a little deeper with it. I thought about what about the little things?
Mm.
Those small, seemingly insignificant parts of our lives that actually bring us that daily dose of joy. Like, for example, when I was recovering in the hospital, the show Daredevil, the first season of Daredevil dropped on Netflix. And I'm not sure if you could tell, I am a huge comic book geek. I love comic books and I just love that show on many different levels. And it helped me basically remove myself and escape for a little while in between my various surgeries. I thought about how surprisingly good the hospital pizza was in Rochester. Maybe it was because I hadn't had pizza when I finally had it, but man, just knocked my socks off if I were wearing socks. I thought about how good it felt to actually put on actual pants. I went with maybe it's a little TMI, but I went without pants for a good 7 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Just because in a hospital gown, you're,
Right.
for surgeries. And it was so exciting to put on jammies. One of my former students who was now a nurse in Mayo, she on a visit, she bought me some superhero jammies. And
Oh,
so I was really excited. I was really excited for those. And even today, I think about the little things that really help us out. I'm thankful for door hinges
mm.
because they help us keep a little bit of privacy and they give us security. I'm thankful for this ring light that is illuminating my face. I'm thankful for the camera lens that is allowing me to look better than I have every right to. I'm thankful for this nice little cool little tiki glass that I bought for a luau/Mother's Day party I threw for my wife and my kids a couple years ago.
Mm.
The more we can find appreciation and wealth in what we already have and the things that help us do our daily tasks, the more we can find positivity all around us. I like to say that you don't have to be rich to be wealthy because wealth, I feel, is subjective. And then I guess the term rich is subjective as well. But when you think about all the different things in your life that help you do everything that you need to do, everything that you want to do, you really have a lot going for yourself. And so that's what T stands for. Thinking of all the good things in your life.
You know, that's a really important message. We could all be thinking of the little things more.
Yeah. And in fact, I try to do this all the time. When I go running, I try to find things to appreciate on the run, whether it's a bird flying overhead, whether it's the sunrise. In fact, my younger son and I drove an hour and 40 minutes so he could run his first 10K
Mm.
last Saturday. And I happened to glance over to the right, and the sun was rising above the horizon, just above the horizon. And it was so beautiful. I had to stop the car and take a picture of it
Wow.
because
Yeah.
it just struck me as I see the sunrise a lot because I'm an early riser when I run. But this certain sunrise was just something I had to capture, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah. And it's also a day that you had spent with your son too, and you were both on that journey together, which is really cool. It'll be a day you'll always remember that
Yes.
photo. Mhm.
He nailed his 10K, by the way, first
Awesome.
stage division, and so I was
Amazing.
proud of him.
Amazing. So what does the A stand for?
The A stands for acknowledge the appreciated. And again, when we think about those people that we appreciate in our lives, usually we think of the big groups, our family, our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors. And I like to take this to another level and think about those people that we may not immediately think of. In the hospital, I thought of the nurses and the doctors and the other staff at Mayo.
Mm.
And that really helps me develop more of a connection with them. I take it as a badge of honor that I learned every single name of every single person who interacted with me at Mayo during my 2 month stay, because it really helped me make the hospital stay feel more welcoming than just, I got to be here. And no, I'm surrounded by friends. And actually, that connection, I believe, helped me in one major unexpected way. When you are in the hospital for a long time, they sometimes put up a poster on your wall called the Getting to Know You poster.
Mhm.
And they have various questions about you. One of the questions on there was, what is your favorite movie? Now, Sarah, you probably see the Ninja Turtles behind me. I told you I
Yes.
love superheroes. Of-
Yeah.
I have a wedding ring that says it says I know in Arabic, which is a Star Wars
Yes.
reference. So you could probably guess what my favorite movie is.
Well, I would have thought Ninja Turtles, but now you're making me question that. Star Wars, because probably wedding, and that's probably near and dear to your heart. Maybe it would be Star Trek, though, just to throw things a little curveball.
Actually, it's Blazing Saddles.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
I love that
Interesting.
movie because I was thinking, what's a movie I can watch over and over again and not
That
get
is
sick of?
that is Blazing Saddles.
That is Blazing Saddles. So I had them put that on the poster. Well,
Mm.
one Monday morning, Chris, the head nurse, she came and she ran into my room. She practically almost tripped over one of the IV stands. And she started stammering. She said, Chris, I was at a garage sale and I saw this and I thought of you. And here it is. It was a DVD copy of Blazing Saddles.
Amazing.
I was stunned.
Yeah.
I'm just a part of her job. I
Mhm.
am a I'm an item on her to-do list. But she saw that DVD and not only thought of me when she saw it, but she went out and bought it for me with her own money.
Mm. Our
And
unsung heroes are the nurses,
yes.
teachers are yeah.
And so I have so much reverence for that DVD. That is one of my prized possessions, not because of the market value, but because of the love and friendship in which it was given.
Mm. That's so sweet.
And so when I think about people I appreciate, I try to tell them why I appreciate them.
Mm.
Because I want people to know that I see them, that their efforts to make my life better or easier or to do their job to serve me is not underlooked or it doesn't go overlooked.
Mm. Yeah.
And I find that when you tell people that you appreciate them, obviously, well, usually it makes them feel good, but they also sometimes keep doing the thing that you like more and more. Like, I don't know about you, Sarah. Are you a big chocolate chip cookie fan?
I am not, but my husband is. So,
Okay.
I'm just not a
Well,
cookie person, but I appreciate those that are.
gotcha. Well, my wife makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. And I will get into arguments with students when I go speaking at their schools. And I'll tell them, sorry, your moms are pretty good. My wife's the best chocolate chip cookies. And since I tell her that ever so often, she'll make chocolate chip cookies for me.
Yeah, so
And
so
so I know that's a little sense of humor about it. But seriously, when we tell people that we appreciate them
mm,
for how they make our lives better, it gives them, you know, a boost of confidence.
mm,
And some people, you never know who might need a boost so they recognize that we recognize them.
yeah, it's very important. What rounds out tag?
Well, that's the G, and that is giving someone else a reason to be grateful.
Mm.
And when you do the A, when you acknowledge, appreciate it, that's part of it. But now I want to do something for someone else. And this actually could be anything. It could be picking up trash on the road or on the sidewalk or in someone's yard, as long as you're not getting too trespassy. When I go out for runs, this could be mowing my neighbor's lawn when I see it's getting long and I know they're not home, or in the winter here, snow blowing driveways or walkways.
Mm.
could be the classic opening a door for someone. Earlier, well, last week, I was in Missouri visiting family and I went out for a run. And on my way out, like within the first couple miles, I passed this woman who was wearing a shirt that said mischief managed. Now, do you know what that reference is?
Mm-mm, I do
Okay.
not.
That is a Harry Potter reference.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Marauders map,
Yes.
when you want to make everything
Everything
disappear, you say
disappear.
mischief managed and everything
Yes.
disappears. So she had a shirt that said mischief managed. And I said, "Hey, great shirt. Oh, thank you." And I kept going my way, no big deal.
Mhm.
Well, I came back the same way and she was coming back the opposite way like before. And since I saw her again, I said, "Hey, have a great day." She said, "You too." Then I responded with always.
Another
And
reference. Yeah.
another reference, she laughed so loud, I could hear it clear across the street.
Mm,
And you don't laugh out loud like that if you don't appreciate what was said. And I can't speak for her directly, but
yeah.
there was a connection there
Hmm.
because of our love for Harry Potter and the fact that we had a laugh together. Now, I'll never see this woman again. I didn't catch her name, but I at least am confident I gave her a fun memory that may have made her walk, may have made her hour, maybe though, it made her whole day
Yeah.
because she made a connection with someone else and it made her smile and laugh. And we never know what is going on in someone else's life.
Hmm.
Maybe they're having a good day. Maybe they're having the worst day of their life.
Hmm.
But if we could do something for them to make that day even a little bit better, then who knows what that can cause in the long term.
Right.
And so that's what the G stands for, giving someone else a reason to be grateful.
It's beautiful. I really love that. And those are great ways that they're actionable things that we can do. We can think, we can acknowledge, and we can give. Those are so important. And I feel the giving portion and just also giving people like a chance to be seen. And it
Mhm.
goes back to with what we were talking about, how we connected. But it's so important to give the voiceless a voice and also to tell people like, I see you, and maybe make that joke with them, a connection.
Mm.
It could be, a compliment, something simple, a door opening, like you said, just noticing and being there. Because I feel like too, in this time, we need more connectivity versus divisiveness. So love what you're
Yeah,
doing. And you're going
yeah,
into
it is.
schools too, right? You're going to
Yes.
schools and love it.
Yeah. So we're gearing up for another year of school. And while I'm gearing up for my own professional duties as a teacher, I'm also reaching out to schools and trying to start conversations with their administrators about me sharing tag with well, not only with their students, but with their staff.
Yes.
Because being a teacher myself, I feel I'm extra qualified to speak to that professional field. And in fact, I have some speaking opportunities later this fall where I'll be sharing my message with educators. I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. Congratulations to everything you're doing. I think your work is so needed in this world. I always love to ask people, how has stress saved your life?
How has stress saved my life?
Hmm.
Well, this might not exactly, I mean, I guess what answers the question. To what degree? We don't know. We'll find out though. During my hospitalization, I wanted to get back to running as soon as I could. The week before I had been hospitalized, I actually ran a Pi Day race, which is slightly longer than a 5K. A 5K is 3.1 miles. A Pi Day race is 3.14 miles. It was run by a high school mathematics club.
Amazing. Did you
And so
also
I
get a
ran,
physical pie too? I have to ask.
there was physical Pi there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
And
thought
I
we
did
both.
enjoy some.
Amazing.
So But I ran that race at a really good pace. 19:29, I believe my time was.
Wow.
So a pretty
Yeah.
good click, fourth overall. So when I was in the hospital, I when I started walking again, it was not 3 miles. It was 30 feet, and I was struggling. But I knew that if I needed to get back to where I was, because that was my goal, I needed to work on it, and I couldn't let myself get bummed out. So one of the things I did was I got on eBay and I ordered a new pair of running shoes. So when I was able to start running again, I had the shoes as a motivational tool to get back out there.
Mm.
And so I did. The After my hospitalization, I participated in 3 weeks of home therapy. And home therapy, they don't like you running a lot because they think, well, if you're running, you don't need home therapy.
Right.
And I still did. I still had some issues I needed to resolve. So the last day of home therapy, I signed all the papers. The nurse left the house. Within 10 minutes, I had those new shoes on, and I went out for my first mile. I went to run to see a friend who worked about a kilometer away. Well, on the way back, I heard my watch ding, and I yelled something I usually don't yell in public. I threw my arms up, and I was gasping for breath. My body hurt. My mind was ready to run. My body didn't. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
They were not in agreement, those two. But I knew that if I could run 1 mile, even hurting and gasping for breath as I could run another one. And while that was the worst mile of my life, I consider it the most important one as well.
Mm.
And so the stress to get me back running has not only helped me become more physically fit, arguably than I was before, but it's helped me earn a black belt in Taekwondo,
Mm.
which I did last January, not this past January, but January 2022, helped me run a Boston Marathon qualifying time,
Wow.
which I did in May of this year. And it helped me actually set or tie other personal running records and other distances. So yeah, I would say that stress is a huge part of making me who I am.
Amazing. Just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, and also just your optimistic view on life. It's so refreshing and it's inspirational. And how can people connect with you?
Again, Sarah, I want to thank you for this opportunity to not only share my message on your platform, but also to get to know you.
Yeah.
We've been chatting and online and so forth, but it's fun to have this chat. People can find me at chrisdtgordon.com. That's my website. You want to find out more about my speaking engagements and find out where I've been and what I'm doing. You can also reach out to me at chrisdtgordon.com on Facebook, LinkedIn, and that's also the name of my YouTube channel. If you're on Instagram and Threads, it's at chrisdtgordon.com. And if you're a podcast aficionado, my podcast is called Scar Bearers. I will say that I have not been producing a lot of episodes lately. I've been focusing more on getting speaking engagements, and I've also needed just to take a little bit of a break from it. But I'm looking for new guests, and the messages that I put on there are incredibly inspirational. I've had the honor of talking to so many great people on there. So Scar Bearers is the name of my podcast.
Well, thank you so much again, Chris. Connect with Chris, go listen to his podcast. Also, make sure if you are a teacher or you are in charge of a school, reach out to Chris because his message needs to go out more to the universe. And
Yes.
as always, guys, remember, my soulful listeners, be kind to yourself today on your self care journey. Thank you.